Hello, everybody. Well, we thought that now in the summer, now we'll introduce an interesting topic about feminism, something feminine. Well, we are focusing on this angle. This is the trend now. The topic we're talking about today, we're discussing here today, we were thinking of a challenging title. So this is the best that we were able to come up with is the economic and social dynamics of marriage and behavior with the focus on young women in Egypt. The speaker we have here today is a young doctor. Her name is Dr. Dina Abdel Fattah, an assistant professor at economics. She w- and Dina was my assistant in the university for a while. I'm telling her a safe return because she had an accident a couple of days ago. And we have, for commentary, Dr. Heba El-Laithy and Dr. Hania El-Shalami. Dr. Professor Dina is an assistant professor, graduated 2008. She had a PhD at Sussex University in 2014 about the economics of women in Egypt. She's been working big time on women in Egypt, and she has research interests about gender and immigration. Dr. Heba El-Laithy is the statistics professor at the University of Economics and an expert in economic indicators analysis, and she's a and she had coincidentally her PhD from Sussex University. Which year? What year? I will not tell you what year. She's an expert. Her name was associated with poverty, and she participated in poverty studies and the effect of poverty. She causes poverty. Well, some people say that I taught you poverty. Well, don't say so. I didn't teach you poverty. I taught you how to measure poverty. Dr. Hania is a friend of us. She's a research professor at the AUC, and she has great expertise in the social field, and she is the regional coordinator and the women empowerment projects, and she works also at the Takaful project. She is an ex professor at the American University in Egypt, and she has many publications, and she's been to Bahrain University and to Yale, and an ex member of the gender studies. This is how they call it, Jinsania. This is a joke, and about women's studies at the American University in Cairo, and she's a remark. She's renowned in her field, and I welcome you all. Before we start our presentation, I would like to emphasize that our center takes part in all efforts in sustainable development. Sustainable development that combines both social equality and economic and justice on the economical level. This is what we support. I will give Dina the floor now to present her study. Thank you, Dr. Abdel, for this nice introduction. You put me on the the path, as Dr. Abla has mentioned. This is a very interesting topic about the governmental tendencies to highlight and women empowerment. What we are we will shed some light on how policies should focus or combine both economic and social policies if we are to empower women and to help her join the labor market. We are going to tackle or to shed some light about what factors have helped us focus on this project. The youth bulge is now started to enter the labor market in 2009, and the new youth bulge started in 2012 and started entering the labor market later. And beside that, we are going to discuss the aspect of marriage. The labor market is important for male. However, marriage market is more important to females. For males to be able to enter into the marriage market, they need to be financially established. However, for women, it's different. In Egypt and the Arab countries, they have different drivers and motivations, which results in different dynamics, which at the very end women prefer to enter into marriage market than labor market. Women weak representation in the labor market has caused resulted in high population, and hence we need to focus on women empowerment and to help her join the labor market in order to decrease the population increase. The importance this this is based on Becker. The educational status of women has changed. Now women has have reached higher education, even though that males' participation in education is higher, yet women tend to reach higher stages of education, which is well, there is a missing link between why women in Egypt are highly educated, however they rarely participate in the labor markets. As of the early 90s, there is slowing down of the capacity of the private sector to create new opportunities, which made women drop their jobs and to start working with their families without income. And the shrinking of the regulated sectors' capabilities of absorbing or accepting potential workers has led to the expansion of the irregulated sector in absorbing these potential workers. There is a graph showing women age 10 to 65 in different types of employment before and after marriage in years, and uh, uh, between 1992 and 2012. The first line shows their participation in the government and how it didn't change after marriage. However, their participation in the private, formal and informal sectors has dropped after marriage, and also unpaid family work. Their participation in unpaid family work has increased. This graph shows women, young women from 15 to 29. We find that the general sector is not the main employer of those women in this group age, but we find the more of the formal and informal is the main employer of these women. This is due to the continuing the investment in females' education and the incapability or the public sector and governmental sector incapability of providing decent work opportunities for women points out that there is or indicates that there is a parallel market that can accommodate females and appreciate their education. Marriage in the Arab context, marriage is considered the most important transition to adulthood in the life of young Arabs. The life of Arab females revolves around marriage to the extent that the formal title assigned to woman only changes from girl to woman upon marriage, regardless of her age. Reproduction in Egypt and Arab world is strictly confined to marriage. Marriage is considered the most important and the largest transaction in the lives of young couples and their families. Marriage costs in Egypt and are equivalent to years of financial accumulation for both families. We have two phenomena, early marriage and late marriage. Both phenomena are here present in Egypt. Well, in the current research, there is the existence of the marriage market as an attractive and alternative opportunity for females relies on the benefits females expect to enjoy in this market. The first paper focuses on the cost of marriage with a particular attention to the cost of jewelry paid by the groom. The cost of marriage or the cost or the breakdown of the cost of marriage misses data due to the changes that's occurring recently, and families now can drop some of these expenses in order for the marriage to proceed, and it could pick up pace. Some people get married and live with one of the families of the groom or the bride, and they could split the cost of furniture. However, the jewelry cannot be dropped. It's always present. It could cost more or less. However, everybody sticks to that, and it's relevant to the and the cost review is used as a proxy for the value placed on the young female in the marriage market. Well, women in Egypt, as you understand, there is this huge wedding, and they wear the jewelry for everybody to see, and jewelry is used personally by the bride. It is not to be used by her mother or anybody else. So it's a proxy um, uh, for the value placed on the young female. From this point, we move to the second point regarding the marital happiness and why it's important for women. Because when we talk about the labor market, we focus on two things: the quality of work and the value. So the same thing happens to the when we compare that to the marriage market, we talk about the value of how the woman or the wife is perceived, and the quality of marriage, which is happiness, which is affected by which is affected and affects both the wife and the kids, and affects the choices being made in the future. When focused on the determinants of the happiness of marriage, well, it depends basically on the depends on how about the youth. We are talking about the surveys conducted in 2009. It's about the date the youth bulge into the market labor. If I'm talking about the indicators about happiness of marriage, there it's affected by the instability that occurred between 2012 and 2014. There are some independent variables that we need to focus on about the nursery, about the circumcision, about the preschool enrollment, kinship marriages. The sex ratios and circumcisions both significantly increased the probability of getting married for young Egyptian females. Education affects the females getting married. The more the girl is educated, the more her value is increased in the marriage market. Hence, education could uh, uh, fasten or delay her entrance into marriage labor. However, after marriage, her value is increased. The more her education, she receives her education, the more the value of her jewelry is increased. About wages, about the ROI on education, we could follow the same equation. When you talk about the ROI of marriage, we always perceive it from the we look at it or perceive it from the anticipated or projected value of the husband's work in the future. However, we always we try to find the value of women in the marriage labor. So I took the value of the jewelry a bride is given to determine this value. There is Egyptian women are represented more in the in the marriage market more than she is represented in the labor market. For the characteristics of the wife, her age doesn't play a role in the marital happiness. This is shown on a sample of women between 10 and 19 years old. Having kids at an early age could affect her happiness. The period between engagement and marriage plays a role in the happiness of work. Education also plays a role. Participation in the labor market affects her happiness in marriage. So her participation, the variable we are using is she participates or doesn't participate in the labor market. So if she, therefore, if we focus on the women participating in the labor market, they are there is a minor percentage, so the representation may not be accurate. Participation in the labor work could negatively affect marital happiness in case she spends more time doing chores, and in case there are kids, she is raising children, because this puts a huge burden on her shoulders and could affect her and could affect the marital happiness. The husband characteristics, it doesn't notably affect the happiness, the happiness in marriage. Please continue. From the previous slide, we have considered the participation in the labor market and the presence of chores. Well, the due to the pressure of the society, we've came to find that women has directed her efforts to join the marriage market, not the labor market, about the participation of the women in the labor market. No, not many studies are available on this subject. The institutional framework hasn't creating an enabling environment through labor laws and family laws that would allow women to participate in the labor market while having a balanced relationship at home, leading to the overall happiness of women. The missing coordination between the institutional policy framework represented in family laws and labor market laws highlight the role of women in the society between labor market and satisfying the role at home. Dina, thank you very much. She has conducted 2 papers on this about the characteristic, what you have mentioned about the characteristics of the husband that don't have an effect on the happiness and marriage. Well, there must be something wrong. This is not very accurate. Well, let's hear the comment of Dr. Heba. Well, I will not take long. However, first of all, I would like to thank Dr. Dina and Dr. Abdel, since she graduated from the same, she had her PhD from the same university as I did. I would like to thank her for these 2 research papers. They are very important. I would like to thank her for tackling issues that were not given much attention, especially regarding the data and the statistics. perhaps they were tackled socially more often, however, but not on the data and the modeling levels. There were few and scarce studies tackling these issues. I would like to thank her for being courageous and brave enough to tackle this subject in her papers. I will start with this paper because this is what I've read first. So let's talk about the happiness in marriage. The first thing is it's common that when you use the Bulge and the Youth survey of 2009 doesn't make me very comfortable about the results because this is a 10 years old study. Since then, a lot has occurred on the social and economic environment. So to accept these results as if they are occurring right now and to base my study on them doesn't. I'm not very comfortable with this, especially that you have mentioned that there is another survey that occurred in 2014. It could be complementary to this study. So those who have got married at young age, assuming that's 2009, perhaps after 5 years, I would check about their status and about their happiness. But to use a 2009 research as a baseline, this could make all results not very realistic. And I say so for both research papers. So perhaps in the future, when you're trying to use to make other papers, you could use panel data because people could change from 2009 to 2014, and hopefully there should be another research paper. This is for future research. The second, this is my personal opinion, of course, depending totally, wholly on perception, on people's perception. This holistic dependency of the girl or the woman, if when you ask her whether you're happy or not in her marriage, and she had like five choices to answer. This is a very question in the spur of the moment, or say it's about her tendency at the moment. She could have had a fight with her husband, and if you're asking me if I'm happy, if you're telling me if I'm happy, I would say no, I am in misery. But after a couple of days, when we have reconciled, then I would tell you I am happy. So, especially knowing that here in Egypt, when it's a part of our culture, if you ask me how am I doing, I'll tell you thank God I'm doing. So if I rely only on one question and start constructing my models on it, that doesn't make me very happy about the results, because I must when I've seen your paper, I checked the consistency between the question. There was another question, if you're happy or unhappy. So some people say they are happy. If you see the cross relation between the two, 22% of those who have interest when they've said they are married, 22. And 78% said they were not happy in their marriages, but they were happy in their lives. So I wish you could have use composite indicators to show us consistency, and we wouldn't rely only on a question that depends on impression or another point. So it's about the definition of happiness, and to depend on one question. Well, many people only use one question to determine if they're happy or not. But in our culture, we should take it from the perspective of our culture. We always say that everything is fine and all is well. Well, maybe, perhaps, perhaps this is a subjective relationship, or it has a relation with your with how you compare your life to others, your families. It is not an abstract definition. It is rather subjective. The way you see yourself being treated by your husband in comparison to how your relatives being treated by their husband. And somehow this is affected by the crowdness that people feel, or the pressure of the societies or towns. However, on the rural areas, this may differ because people are always, most of them are of the same social level. So this what makes me say that the variable regarding the happiness variable is rather subjective, related to the environment, and it doesn't only depend on education only. I would say something else. It's of no direct link. However, regarding interpretation of of statistics, uh, I always prefer to have a quantitative analysis. Qualitative sometimes doesn't provide clear results. If we once upon a time they were asking the people and the patients in the hospital how long they have stayed in the hospital and if they are married or not. They came to realize that non-married people stayed longer in the hospital, and they came to realize also that those who are married uh, leave the hospitals shortly after they're being admitted, and they came to realize also that they go home for somebody else to take them. So sometimes if we just take numbers as they are not, they do not indicate the real reasons. More also, I will talk. I don't want to go into more details. However, I will, since I've taken long, I will be brief. It's regarding the categories that you have used: unhappy, and happy, and very happy. I think that for people to be able to differentiate between happy and happy, or happy and very happy, this is a very small scale, and I think that neutral is the third. As I recall, the neutral was the third category. I know that the frequency perhaps was the reason why you've done so. However, if I'm to talk about details, more specific points, you haven't taken in consideration during that model, the most important is the female circumcision. You have skipped this part. However, you are considering that in the second research paper. And if we all know that female circumcision is a major component or a major factor that affects marital happiness. So how come? One more thing also you should have considered, it's education. You have taken some categories. However, have you considered those who are enrolled or not enrolled? You should have considered the selection bias. What made these people drop from school, from education? You have considered, many of you have taken so many variables, like the wife living with her parents or husband's parents. You should have taken that you have taken that in consideration. You should have taken also the housing conditions, whether they have potable water or clean water or not, or they have the adequate sanitary facilities, because this is a factor that affects the mood or the living conditions of the wife, and gradually the way she perceives marriage happiness, her happiness. A point that I do not approve in my studies is the religion. the indicator about being Muslim or Christian is a very sensitive indicator, and it is an indicator that sometimes misleads misleads the results and could be misinterpreted. Some people could say that those who are wearing veil or not wearing veil could be misinterpreted, and it is not of importance because, for instance, 3% of the sample you have interviewed are not wearing veil, and 97% are wearing veil. So you're using the same variable. And you are using this same variable in the second research paper. Myself, I prefer not to use this indicator because this is not a crucial indicator that could affect marital happiness. It's not like jewelry or like living conditions. This is regarding the first paper. For the second paper, I have gone through it. I don't know about the woman's value in the market. This is very provocative. Women's value?
The women's value in the marriage market is a bit problematic. I'm a bit concerned about the usage of this word. Is the jewelry the real value of a female? I'm not really happy with the usage of such term. Maybe you could have used the term marriage cost, but women's value in the marriage market, as reflected in the jewelry, is not very appropriate usage. And thank you for using the prophet first, checking if the female is married or unmarried, and then you took into consideration the selection bias. Also, when it comes to education, I wanted you to include selection bias. Did she decide so or not? Sex ratio, I don't know what is the value of using this. Is this like based on the residents, and is it for the whole population or in this specific age group? Okay, in this specific age group, I think there are, I'm not sure if there are major differences in our society. I'm not sure. You know better than me. Okay, you know better. Work, you said the question employed or unemployed, and the same happens for marital happiness. Unemployment is very important. Maybe someone or like a girl wants to work but cannot, and this will make her disappointed. So I think you should have included more than unemployed or employed or inactive, because you used the term inactive more than once. I think that's all I have for now. Yeah, more or less that's all. And thank you so much again. I'd like to thank you for studying this under research topic, and sorry for taking long.